Today's episode of the BS Podcast brought to you by SeatGeek, our presenting sponsor since 1981. Find the best tickets for Caps Penguins, Celtics Bulls, Wiz Hawks, Rangers Round 2, any MLB game, Hamilton, maybe even Game 5, Clips Jazz. Haralabos thinking about it. You name it, I have SeatGeek on my phone. It's by far the easiest way to shop for the best tickets thanks to their revolutionary grading system. Buy and sell tickets. Just 2 taps on your phone, 2 taps, everything fully guaranteed. Try it out. Download the SeatGeek app today. Or go right to SeatGeek.com. We're also brought to you by The Watch. That's where you can find the Ringers, Chris Ryan and Andy Greenwald talking pop culture on Mondays and Thursdays. If you love The Leftovers, you definitely want to hear their latest pod with Leftovers creator Damon Lindelof. Subscribe to The Watch wherever you get podcasts. Check out the Ringer NFL show because it's draft week, and Robert Mays, Mike Lombardi, Kevin Clark have you covered before, during, and after the draft. And finally, check out theringer.com. We were loaded today, including a slew of NBA pieces. Kevin O'Connor did the premature playoff awards, and Sean Fennessy found the courage to be the only writer on the internet who doesn't love watching Russell Westbrook and thinks his play is counterproductive. And it is the most, we're going to talk about to Haralabos about this in a second, the most polarizing topic dating back to 2011 when we had Grantland in 6 years. Westbrook is the most polarizing topic I can ever remember in The Office.
Yep.
More polarizing than TV shows, movies, anything. Anyway, you will find at least one NBA piece from me on theringer.com this week, maybe 2. Coming up, Haralabos, Voulgaris, our old friend. Here comes Pearl Jam. Well, the people are asking for it. They're saying, where's Haralabos? Where is he? He used to come on the podcast for years. I want to know what to think about the MVP. I want to know who's going to win the NBA playoffs. And he was MIA. Now he's here. Haralabos Voulgaris, one of our favorites.
Yep,
How are you?
Here. I'm good. Good.
Who did you have, just out of curiosity, for MVP? You had Kawhi, correct?
Yeah, I had Kawhi. That's a tough one. I'm pretty happy with it, I think. I mean, not that I have a vote, but if I did have a vote, I usually don't really pay much attention to MVP. I think it's kind of a, first of all, I don't really understand.
Careful, it's the highlight of my life, voting for it every year. I love voting for MVP.
Yeah, usually I don't really pay much attention, but because this year was so interesting, I thought there's so many different ways you could go with it, and there's so many different arguments. I mean, you could argue 1 to 4. I don't think there's ever been an MVP where you could do 1 to 3, let alone 1 to 4.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably could make.
There's been a couple, just not this century.
Sure.
There hasn't been a 4-person race like this
since I've been following.
Yeah, since you've been into it.
Yeah, for sure. So I went Kawhi. I think people discount his defense. People discount how efficient he is on offense. Just having to, he's the only player who has to defend the other team's best option on offense, usually. Now, there's lots of arguments you could make against Kawhi, like he rests, doesn't play that many minutes, plays on a really good team. But yeah, I went Kawhi.
You were on the Kawhi train a couple years before it became
Super
cool.
Early.
Yeah, like 2013 you were into it. But
even earlier.
Your models and stuff, because you were gambling on the NBA for years and years, your models always favored two-way players, right? A little bit?
Yeah, I don't know if they favor two-way players. They just realize how important a two-way player is. Kawhi, definitely an example. Then also just the efficiency and the ability to do different things in terms of where you're getting your points from, how many times. I mean, he doesn't turn the ball over very much. He doesn't really do anything bad on offense.
Right.
Like if Kawhi has a bad game offensively shooting, which he almost never does, he doesn't do anything else bad. So you know, it's not like Carmelo has a bad game on offense. It's just he's a complete zero because he's probably not defending very well. He's probably not rebounding. He's probably not getting very many steals or anything like that. Kawhi does all that. Another guy that we were probably pretty far ahead on was Paul George, I think, is another example of that. Paul George is someone that I liked for a long time before he became really, really good. He's outstanding.
And now he's overrated.
No, he's
definitely overrated.
No way. You're like,
I'm
he's
not
so
a fan.
There's like he's so inconsistent. Paul George is so inconsistent. It's like, I mean, the year that he came back from breaking his leg in 2.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
that is the one case for Paul George. He did break his leg in half.
Yeah, I mean, that was the most horrific. That was a pretty horrific incident. And then he comes back from that early, which people didn't think he'd come back when he did, and he did come back. And yeah, okay, he wasn't great when he came back, as good as he was before, but he's performed in the playoffs every year. He's a great player.
He was great in the second time they played Miami.
Yeah.
The first year, like basically he was Granger's protege.
Right.
And then the second year, Granger was out, and he stepped up in a way that I don't think anyone was prepared for. But you were prepared. You were on the bandwagon early.
They played the Knicks that playoff series, and the Knicks were pretty big favorite.
Yeah, they were like 55-win team.
Yeah, 70% favorite to win that series, I think, something like that, roughly. And it was just a joke. I thought that was the biggest joke ever.
Yeah.
I think the Pacers beat them 4-2 and beat them handily.
I remember you and I were emailing during that stretch, and you were delighted. Like once or twice a year, there would be a situation like that where the public team.
Sure. And the Knicks are like the perfect
skewed.
public team because it's
Right.
New York and everyone thinks they're so good. And
Yeah.
people still think they're good. Like this year, they're Derrick Rose is talking about them being a super team.
Right. Now he's
That
sitting.
gives you an idea of how skewed
Well,
the
he did make the
perception
playoffs. He was at Game 4 yesterday wearing a jogging suit with his kid and sitting
is.
courtside.
French fries. Yeah, I saw that.
My one gripe with Paul George, and I think you saw it in this Cavs series, even though he had to do a lot. I don't know if he's a high volume offensive player. I think if he's your second best player, that's great. But I don't think he has the ceiling that Jimmy Butler has. Jimmy Butler, I mean, we're going to talk about how Fred Hoiberg ran him into the ground yesterday, but Jimmy Butler, you can run the whole offense through him. And I feel like there's a level he can get to that Paul George is basically just a 40% shooter who, especially in the last 5 minutes, I feel like I can stop Paul George. Whereas Jimmy Butler, I feel like he can do more things.
Sure, that's possible. I mean, I definitely going into this year and maybe even during the year, if I was asked who I liked better, Paul George or Jimmy Butler, I would say Paul George easily.
Really?
But I've been
That's flipped
rethinking
now?
it in the playoffs a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I might have underestimated Jimmy Butler a little on offense. You know, the interesting about Jimmy Butler is he doesn't look like he's nearly as tall as Paul George because he's not
Yeah.
as long. But they're not that different in height. I mean, there's like an inch or two between the two of them in height. And Jimmy's got that hairdo that gives him a few more inches too.
Right. Very smart. It's a good Dr. J in the
That might be why
ABA. He
his
was
height is-
6'11".
But that
Yeah.
might be why his height is, now that I think about it, that might be why there's only a couple, because they might have measured up a little bit.
Yeah.
But possibly, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with just, I mean, I think Paul George has a lot more upside if he's in the right situation. I think
Yeah.
like Jimmy Butler's playing probably about as good as he's playing. He's probably not going to play any better. And it's not like Paul George is a young player and he's going to improve a lot. But
his situation might improve.
yeah, his
Like, if you put
situation.
him on the Celtics with Isaiah being able to carry the offensive load Isaiah can carry, and then Paul George doesn't have to totally worry about that and can kind of fit in, I think he would be really good.
Maybe, yeah. I think also just he doesn't. I think since his injury, he's not really a big foul drawer. He doesn't really drive a lot. Like he complains how he never gets any foul calls, but he also takes a lot of mid-range jumpers and he takes a lot of
Settles.
fadeaways. Yeah, and shots like that, you're not going to get. Unless you're not going to get a foul call on that or shooting foul on that. So that's something where maybe the right situation or the right offense or the right coach could maybe bring that out of him, possibly.
He's the guy I look at when I look at Jaylen Brown, who I've had a roller coaster ride with this year, who I loved. I was all in, and then he hit the Ricky wall, and now he can't even play in this playoff series. But if you look at his stats, same situation as George, came out early, super athletic, kind of thrown into the water.
Yeah.
His stats offensively are basically the same as Paul George rookie year. If you look at their per 36, it's like almost exact.
Interesting.
And defensively, I think he has a chance to have the same kind of upside. Maybe Paul's, maybe going to be a little bit stronger. I don't know how Jalen's body is going to go.
Sure.
But Paul George wasn't Paul George for a couple years there. It really wasn't until Granger went down when he got through into the fire. And I wonder, that's why it's so hard for me to judge this Jaylen Brown pick, because they're such a good team. Especially with rookies, if they don't have it, what do you do? Like, they're trying to get the 1 seed. There's games with rookies where it's just like, oh, this guy's just running around like a chicken with his head cut off.
The rookie wall is probably the most underrated thing in basketball. I mean,
Yeah.
every player hits the rookie wall.
No question.
I mean, maybe LeBron, you can make the case that LeBron didn't.
We can't count LeBron with any conversation about basketball.
In our model, we had like a rookie model, which wasn't very good. But even as bad as it was, one of the things we had was like if one of our rookies projected to be about as good as LeBron, we knew our model was just messed up because there's only one LeBron.
That's interesting.
So like Tyreek Evans' rookie year, he had his rookie year was quite good.
Yeah.
And it compared very favorably to LeBron. And
He was like 26-5.
Yeah, I remember looking at that and I was like, there's something wrong with this. I don't care what his stats are. There's no way. We need to figure out a way to make our model account for the fact that LeBron is LeBron and everyone else isn't.
The models that the public uses, I think the biggest flaw with them is they don't account for durability and minutes.
Yeah.
You know, like you'll see somebody like, oh, but his PRs were JaVale McGee has 48 PRs. Well, he's playing 13 minutes a game.
Yeah, you can't extend that stuff out. I mean, that's the one thing but you know, within that, you'll find some players who are playing just a few minutes a game who are quite good, and then they're giving the opportunity when they're given. But so you kind of that's why you can't just be a model, or you have to like actually watch the games. And
and sometimes bench guys are
some common sense.
Yeah, bench guys sometimes are really good in little 7-minute spurts. Other guys are better when they play 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's hard for them to just play 2 7-minute spurts and that's all they do.
Sure.
You know, especially some shooters. Do you feel like the internet has caught up to some of the intelligence you had 5 years ago?
Oh yeah, for sure. I would think so.
Feels like the last 2 years, especially. Like I never even knew what the hell offensive rating was. I just didn't understand it. And now, you know, I wrote my NBA book in like 2009. I didn't have the benefit of really any of these advanced stats, and even I had a whole section about how overrated Oscar's triple double was because of the pace, and I just had to use like field goal attempts. Look at all these field goal attempts that year. And now it's like we can really cut it down. It's funny though, looking at those offensive ratings, which I think is a little bit of a better indicator than PER.
Yeah.
But like if you go back in history, it's pretty good. It's the guys that are in the 120s are the right guys. You know what I mean?
Sure. And then even ahead of all of that stuff, you have like the super quiet part of the internet where you have like the people who go to Sloan every year and write on blogs who are doing stuff that is pretty much super advanced, I would say. I mean, there's still a lot of dark holes and there's still a lot of weaknesses in some of those models, but yeah, it's caught up for sure. The stuff is really good. Stuff on the internet's pretty good, especially if you know where to look. I
love this stuff. I mean, I've always, for the last few years, I love like the field goal percentages of where guys shoot in the floor. Like Marcus Smart, who's one of the worst shooters I've ever seen. He's good on corner threes. And I watched that on the eye test. I'm just like, oh, he's in the corner. He's going to make this. But it's nice to have the numbers that back that up to be like, oh, if he's in these two spots, he's really good. And I think teams probably they were hiding it for a while, but I would say 2012, 2013 really started to look at location.
Sure.
And, oh, our offense does this. This guy's shot is open. You know, if we play the 4, he's open in this spot. Let's go look at all the guys in the league who are good at that spot. And then they go and they sign them.
It's funny. The people had, to give you an idea how far behind some teams were, like the Lakers in the year they lost to the Celtics were encouraging open corner threes from the Celtics, who shot, I think, 1.4 points per.
That was the Posey House.
Yeah,
Pierce,
Posey House, Ray Allen. You could see it every time there was an open corner three. Lamar Odom would be streaking down the court for a fast break that never happened because the ball was going in. And it's funny because I've told this story a few times, but I remember reading like Phil Jackson saying something about, we don't take those corner threes because they lead to fast breaks. And I was like, oh, that might make sense. And so I watched every corner three that was taken in the NBA and charted, did it lead to a fast break or didn't it? And it actually was the case that corner threes led to less fast breaks than other shots from the 3-point line. So
it's almost like Phil Jackson doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right. It's interesting because that was like the first idea that I was like, And then the year Memphis was beating Golden State 2-1, and I forget who was, I guess Atlanta was the leading team and they were losing, and he was like, oh, can someone tell me how the 3-point shooting teams are doing in the playoffs right now? He tweeted it, right? How's it going?
Oh, God.
And that was kind of, because people really thought, oh, okay, look, this, you can't, people still said that you can't win being a 3-point shooting team. Now in the NBA, like if you're not shooting threes, you're not even competing at all.
When you watch a team like Houston, were you kind of waiting for somebody to do this for years and years?
Yeah, I remember even talking to Daryl about it, like Sloan, and just thinking like, this team is ruining basketball's model. Like it breaks the model for sure. Yeah. Because their 3-point rate was like climbing high. I think this year their 3-point rate, which is the ratio of 3-point shots to 2-point shots and free throws, is like in the 40. Like they're off the chart. Like literally off the chart. Like if you make the chart and they're completely in the top right corner and everyone else is somewhere in the middle. And so the game does become more random for sure.
And that's what the Celtics love.
Sure.
And the Celtics, it sounds like too pat to say this, but it really does come down most of the time with them whether they make 3-pointers or not. Last night was an aberration because I think they were like 9 for 35 or something from 3. Like they couldn't make them, but they still won. Normally when they miss from 3, it's a disaster because they're high volume. If they're under 35%, that's when I'm always like, this is going to end up badly.
Trouble.
But Isaiah just played well, and Hoiberg coached one of the worst games in the last couple of years.
That was a crazy game.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe.
They did it at the beginning of the fourth quarter because Isaiah had 4 fouls for basically the whole second half. And there was one time it was late third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, when Butler got switched on him and he just backed him down, and Isaiah wasn't going to guard him, foul him, anything. So Jimmy Butler basically just backed down, did a little 2-footer. And I'm like, oh my God, they figured it out. And then they never did it again.
Well, that's what's interesting about the playoffs is watching these adjustments these coaches make or don't make, or the players make. In the first half, the Celtics were liberally switching that small to small pick and roll.
Yeah.
And so that's what the Bulls ran. And then in the second half, Marcus Smart fought through one switch, and Isaiah didn't have to guard him because they fought through the switch. But it wasn't really a good pick. So now the small to small, maybe you can make an argument wasn't working. But then Stevens put Isaiah Thomas on Zipser. And Zipser was just standing, and that's a power forward.
He doesn't move, though. That's perfect for Isaiah.
But he could set a screen. And
True.
he could probably set a screen that's, decent enough where it's going to be tough to fight through that. And now you can get the switch you wanted. They never even tried. I mean, they just stood. They just stuck Zipser in the corner, and Isaiah had to do nothing. And I think that was a turning point in the game because it allowed him to play offense, it allowed him not to worry about foul trouble, and then, it was interesting.
And then he didn't play Lopez enough.
He didn't play Lopez at all in the fourth quarter.
Lopez kills us
on the offensive. I mean, that's the one thing that's interesting. It's like, okay, will we really beat this team with our rebounding? They're going small. What are we going to do? Let's go small. it's like the Celtics went small, but the Celtics were already small. Like they played Amir Johnson, but then they would take him out. It wasn't like he played like the whole first quarter anyways. And so they never were a big team to begin with. It's not like they always started Amir, and they never started Amir and Horford anyways. So it's like, are they really going small? I
probably watched more Celtics this year than any year since 2008. Amir hasn't ever really made sense, but for some reason when he's in there with Horford, there's these couple of these lineups that their plus minus is fantastic, which is why they do it.
Because they rebound. It's the only lineup where they
but
really
not against the Bulls. They weren't, and that's why it took them a while to realize like not the series for Amir, which a lot of coaches just nope, we're gonna play him. It worked all year, and then they're out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
In this case, they were like not the series for Amir, and they went small. Which is funny because it's almost like professional wrestling. Like you go out of the ring, you hope the other guy comes out of the ring. Yeah, come out of the ring, come out here. And if it's small ball versus small ball, there's only 3 teams that can hang with the Celtics. And Chicago's not one of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably more than 3 teams, but Chicago isn't one of them.
Houston, Golden State, Cleveland, who else? That's it. The Celtics can hang with all those teams if you're going small and small. But as soon as the variable switches, they're in trouble.
It just depends. Like, this is a bad matchup because... for lots of reasons, like not having a point guard if you're Chicago is pretty big.
Right.
Because
explain the whole thing about how if you went Wade and Butler as your backcourt, the trouble that leads.
Who's going to guard Isaiah when that happens?
Jimmy Butler, who's exhausted in the fourth quarter, and
he can't chase Isaiah around. That's so Isaiah in this series is usually a liability because he's really bad on defense.
Yeah,
not a liability totally, but on defense he's a liability. But because they have no point guards, they have to play Isaiah Cannon to guard him. And now Isaiah Cannon on offense is, he might have a good game, but he's probably not going to have a great offensive game. He's not a good offensive player. He turns the ball over a lot, doesn't shoot.
I got excited every time he took a shot.
Yeah.
Please keep shooting Isaiah Cannon.
And I'm sure they got excited when he didn't turn it over. He got a shot off. That's good. Because he's not up to that level at this point. He's not a primary ball handling point guard. He's not a point guard. He's been a shooting guard most of his NBA career when he's played. He's always been the guy off the ball, not with the ball. So that's the reason why. Now, could Wade guard? Could you ask Wade to guard Jimmy or Isaiah Thomas for a little bit and maybe give Jimmy Butler a little bit of a break?
He didn't sign up for that.
Probably not. So what do you do?
Wade didn't even sign up to help them out yesterday in Game 4 for some reason. Where was he?
Yeah.
It's not like he's done. Like this is not somebody who should be at the end of his career. I can't believe that he couldn't have a bigger game than that.
He might be battling something. I'm not sure.
Maybe. He might have had a lot of attrition.
I watched the Houston Oklahoma City game yesterday, and it looked to me like Harden was like on drugs or something. I was like, what's wrong with Harden? Right. But then after the game, he said he hurt his ankle. He hurt his ankle in game 3, and that's why he was. So you just never really know unless the player says there's something. Because Harden was terrible for the entire game.
He was awful.
Not just terrible, but it looked like he didn't want to play. And it makes sense if he had an ankle injury because he not that he didn't want to play, it's just he was hurting. He was laboring.
They used him almost as a decoy.
It was weird. First of all, he would sit there on defense. He's already guarding Robertson, not having to doing anything, but he wouldn't even help that. He wasn't even moving at all on defense. And then on offense, he would get the ball and he was just deferring. He wasn't really, when he'd get it, he'd settle for a bad shot. Every once in a while, he would drive and bounce it off his knee out of bounds or whatever.
I saw what you said on Twitter about you think that it's indisputable Houston has a better supporting cast. And I actually agree with you, but...
You want to dispute the indisputable.
Indisputable. I do think OKC has good players that they have put in a position to fail for most of this year. The way basketball is played, when you're basically saying to just about everyone on your team, you're here to help Russ. Oh, he needs you now. Now get ready. It's not how it works. You can't do it that way. Oladipo is somebody to me that I think could be a really good offensive player especially against second units.
That's one thing where they could play him against second units more and let him carry it a little bit. Like, I don't know why they're playing Norris Cole.
That helps him because it's giving him confidence. He's getting reps, creating the offense, making plays, and then in crunch time when he's out there with Westbrook, they can actually go to him. He can do something.
When you look at line the teams up and you compare them, I could see how you could make that argument, and some of them maybe arguably are on like in isolation or like just looking at each individual player alone, better players. Like Oladipo, probably if you look at him and you had to draft him or whatever, let's say assume these players are all unknown players and they're free agents, you'd say probably Oladipo's better than Lou Williams, right? Of course.
Oh yeah.
But Lou Williams does one thing really well, and that's score baskets and draw fouls
and get fouls.
And in a team concept, and just not even a team concept, they're just better basketball players in this day and age because, look, that Houston team is like the biggest jabroni team ever. I mean, all they do is shoot threes and draw those like chintzy fouls where they're like coming off a screen. But that works in today's game. You can't play basketball. Like Ryan Anderson has had a terrible playoff series, but him being 2 or 3 feet behind the 3-point line and still being a threat, that's a valuable offensive commodity.
Couldn't Doug McDermott do that for the Thunder, though?
You're just not going to respect him as much, I don't think. He's not as good a 3-point shooter as Ryan Anderson. You mean Ryan Anderson on open three? Like, I did a thing where I just compared like open 3-point shots, right?
Yeah.
So players wide open on three. This isn't a proxy for who's a better basketball player, but it is a proxy for who's a better 3-point shooter.
Right.
And it is a good proxy for who's a better offensive player. I mean, I think the best player shooting threes for Oklahoma City was Oladipo, and he was like sub 30, I forget, but 33, 32%. Houston had guys that were in the 40s. I mean, 3 of them. Yeah, and that's in today's basketball game. That's a skill that makes you a better basketball player. It creates more lanes for your other players. You get 3 points when it goes in. It's better.
Hold this thought. I want to keep talking about that series. Want to talk about Texture really quick? How do we keep this podcast fresh? I read a ton of stuff every day, including a bunch of magazines on the Texture app. Texture gives me access to hundreds of magazines like The Atlantic, New York Magazine, The New Yorker, and SI all in one place on my tablet or phone. With daily recommendations, interactive features, videos, and more, the Texture app makes it easy to find and enjoy the articles I want to read. It's even searchable, so you can mark what you like, check out back issues, or view bonus content. No wonder it was selected as one of Apple's top 2016 iPad apps. I read just about everything on my iPad. Do you read stuff on your iPad?
No.
I love reading on my iPad. Texture has been a godsend.
Maybe now I will.
Normally Texture, $9.99 a month for access to over 200 magazines, but if you sign up right now at texture.com/BS, you get a 14-day free trial. What's better than that? Why subscribe to a couple of mags when you can subscribe to all of them? Start your free trial. Download the Texture app. Go to texture.com/BS for your 14-day free trial. Who did you think was going to win Oklahoma City versus Houston heading into the series?
Houston.
Yeah.
I thought Oklahoma City could make some adjustments and cause them some difficulty.
Rebounding and defense, right?
Yeah.
Rebounding, defense, and Russ could have won this series, I feel like.
Sure. And every game, there's been some close games. It's not, that's the thing about a 7-game series, anything can happen. But I did think if I had to guess which team would win the series, I would say Houston.
What was the biggest surprise in round 1 for you? Not even like who's winning, but just like something you didn't expect with
I didn't expect the Bulls to have that much success with Rondo in the first 2 games, like versus Boston. I didn't see that coming. And
I was there for game one. I can tell you nobody saw it coming.
I didn't really think. It's not like I sat there and like really studied the series and was like, oh, what am I going to do with this series? But after it was while it was happening, I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is kind of surprising. That's really I'm not a huge. I'm actually a pretty big Rondo. I'm not a big Rondo fan at all. That's putting it mildly. But he played really well for them in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
And it's kind of disappointing that he got injured because I think it would have made that series like a lot more interesting.
I wasn't disappointed at all.
No, it didn't seem that way.
He definitely knew where all the plays were going. And I will say, though, now that you watch Isaiah in game 4, looked like Isaiah again. How many times during the season did he just rip losses and turn them into wins?
Yeah, that's
game 1, the game 4 Isaiah in game 1, they win game 1, you know, because he did that over and over again this season.
That's another thing. It's like this poor guy is playing under an unrealistic amount of stress. And
yesterday
heartache.
was the first day where he looked like the guy I watched all season.
I just don't understand how he was even able to play. Like I get that it's a release and so, but it just must have been so difficult. I've never lost anyone in my life like yet. I'm pretty like none of my siblings, so I can't imagine.
I've never been to a game where a guy cried in the pregame intros and then played. I mean, think about how much emotion you have to then just get thrown out. You're in a playoff basketball game. And I definitely think it affected him. And
it has to have, yeah.
And, you know, I think yesterday was the first day there was a little light at the end of the tunnel for him looking like him.
Yeah.
The other thing was Smart was just horrendous the whole series. And then in the second half, started doing all that Marcus Smart, how do you even measure this guy with analytics stuff? Like he just does things, you know, and most of the time you're terrified. It's like, no, he's a no, yes guy. There's no question. He'll do a dumb foul every once in a while. He'll do a dumb pass. He'll lose his but then he has these moments where he's just there, in the right spots.
By the way, those are the guys that measure well in analytics.
Really? How come?
It's like the Battier thing. Like it's the guys who do the things that don't get measured in the box score.
Yeah,
you know, they set good screens. They fight through screens. They switch when they're supposed to. They help. They retreat back to their defender. It's just that stuff measures in because the other team scores less when they're on the court. Maybe his team scores a little bit more efficiently. So that type of stuff does measure well. So
he's the new Battier, is what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying.
Is he a Sloan Conference panel?
No, not at all. But I'm just saying that those guys, they don't. If you have a guy who does well, your team performs well with them when he's on the court, but they don't really show up in the box score. There's analytics that kind of show that, and Battier was like the leader for that.
Who's the leader now?
I don't know. I'd have to think about it, I suppose. There's a couple different guys that are pretty good. Someone like Beverly probably measures pretty well just because he defends the other team's point guards and he does really well against Curry. There's guys that measure well and that analytics loves even more than like Chris Paul. That he measures really, really good with the eye test with basic box score statistics, and then when the analytics takes a look at him, he's even better.
Chris Paul is the triple crown of that. He's eye test. Yeah. He's regular metrics and he's advanced metrics. Sure. He's all three.
Yeah, LeBron, there's the really great players measure well in both, and then there's players who are kind of underrated.
I told you, I don't count LeBron for any of these discussions.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
So he's a robot sent from the future to destroy us. What about Westbrook? Where did your analytics have? He's probably the most confusing player that we've ever tried to measure with this stuff.
I mean, there's no basis in history, at least in modern statistics, since the play-by-play data became available for a player with that high of a usage.
Yeah.
I mean,
I tried to write that 5 weeks ago and everybody's like, you hate Westbrook. It's like, I'm just pointing out that nobody's ever hogged the ball like this.
Yeah, and so a model would have a lot of difficulty with that. They just wouldn't understand what's going on. Why is our upward cap for usage is like 38 or whatever %? Yeah. This guy's in the 40s or higher. And so there's that. He isn't that efficient, but he gets to the free throw line a lot. I don't know. Our model doesn't think a lot of him. I don't think
defensively, especially I would guess this year he didn't do too well in the model.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I don't know. He's like you said, he's very polarizing. I love watching him play.
Me too.
But I'm not sure I would want him on my team if I was if I had a team. I don't know. I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm just saying I'm not sure that I would.
That's the crux of the Westbrook issue. Everyone's like, love watching him play. Respect what he does. Would you want to play with him? No,
Right.
never. I wouldn't. But
if
I
you-
love watching him. So
But if you
he's
look
not
at his
on my team.
guys, the guys on his team seem to love him. So it's interesting. Like, so
It's like
obviously-
Stockholm syndrome, though. That's what happened with Kobe.
I don't know.
In 2010, Kobe's teammates were like, "Kobe's a great guy. I really like him." Like, it was like they'd been brainwashed.
I don't know, man. When that game against Orlando, when
No, it is true. They're in his corner.
they really do love playing for him. It's interesting.
It's like a cult over there, though. I feel like a little bit. Oklahoma City.
yeah, maybe.
A lot of young players. They always go for the young.
Yeah.
Ilyasova, they had to trade. He's too old. He's on to us. We got to trade him for another impressionable young guy.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know.
I think Westbrook's incredible. And I also think that if somebody's going to have the ball that much, it's impossible for them to win a playoff series. I just don't. There's literally not one example in the history of basketball that this has led to real success. It doesn't work. You need 5 guys.
But if you look at that team after they lost Durant,
Yes.
what path
To
would
drop-
have led to success? Like
That's the thing.
They couldn't. I don't know if this was the best way to do it, but it certainly is the most. I mean, you're not going to win a championship. You're probably not going to get to the conference finals anyways. And so your goal is to maximize seats, attention, whatever. This did it.
It was very smart.
If we forget that sometimes this is an entertainment product too. It's not just always all about winning. I mean, it is about winning, but there's going to be lots of years where you're just not going to be able to compete. Like if you're in the East, you're just basically waiting for LeBron to get traded to the West, or sign with a team in the West, or retire.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere probably. So what do you do in the interim?
Or frame him for a murder. You could do that.
You could
There's a
do
lot.
that.
There's some
lots of
nefarious
possibilities.
options you could do.
frame him for a murder.
Yeah, I mean, people always ask me these last couple months, like, where were the Celtics in the trade deadline? And first of all, Butler and George were not available because both of those teams are going to wait to see if the Lakers have a pick.
I think they were available.
I don't think that. I know for a fact Indy wasn't. I know for a fact that they went all in with a Godfather offer and Bird wouldn't even call him back. Jimmy Butler, I think the
You mean
Bulls.
the? Oh, okay. I see.
The Indy just wasn't trading him. It wasn't happening in February.
That's a mistake. I would be very surprised if he re-signed with Indy.
So here's why I don't think it was a mistake. Because if the Lakers get a top 3 pick, now you have 2 suitors. You play them off each other.
Sure.
I think
They
to
could
me,
still- I would say it's a mistake if they waited till the very end of the.
yeah, you can't do that. But if you and I were running the Bulls or the Pacers, and we're like, oh, the Celtics want Jimmy or Paul, we would meet about it and we would be like, we can't do it until we find out if the Lakers have that pick. If there's ever a candidate to overpay for a player, it's the Los Angeles Lakers with Magic and trying to throw the scent off this whole Bus family disaster. You know, if they get the 3rd pick, they'll offer the 3rd pick, Brandon Ingram, more picks, whatever.
But who's to? I mean, Paul George is unrestricted. He could just go
In
to
a
the
year.
Lakers for But you don't have to. He could just go to the Lakers for nothing eventually.
True. Well, that's the thing that Carmelo could have done that year, right?
Yeah.
Could have just waited to sign with the Knicks, and instead he's like, no, I want it because you want to get paid, and they had to give up Gallinari and Felon and all these assets.
Yeah.
A couple draft picks.
How'd that work out for Melo?
It worked out terrible.
Yeah.
So Paul George should probably wait.
Yeah.
But with the Celtics, back to the point, which is like, I just don't think that they thought the team was good enough, and that there wasn't anyone out there, unless they could get Butler or George, which wasn't on the table. You know,
Celtics would be a scary team with those two.
With
They would
one of them,
probably with one of those two. But they would probably beat. I mean, I don't know. Cleveland. Everyone's like, oh, their defense. No one's ever played with a defense this bad, but their offense is pretty ridiculous. I mean, they don't. It's not that they don't care about defending; they don't really have to. Like
LeBron surrounded by shooters is
it's
about as
absurd.
unstoppable
That
as
LeBron
you
and
get.
the bench unit is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous.
I don't know how you stop it. The one thing with LeBron that I think over everything else that's been the most amazing is the injury luck. I've never seen anything like it. Like Blake Griffin's been hurt 11 times.
I don't think that's luck, though. I don't think that's luck. I do
Well,
think there's.
just one time roll an ankle or like just anything. Like it's almost impossible.
Well, I think he's his skill is he's also durable. That's a skill.
He's the most durable player since Kareem.
Sure.
And Kareem, I mean, even Kareem broke his hand once punching Kent Benson. Like LeBron's never had an injury.
He's never.
He's never really missed significant time for anything. And in the playoffs, Which, like, even Bill Russell got hurt in the playoffs once. Like, LeBron's never had a playoff injury.
Listen to you. You're capping for a LeBron
No,
injury.
I'm not capping anything. I'm just pointing out
How
it's
lucky is LeBron? He's never gotten injured.
I'm just saying.
A
Injury.
murder. How could I get him for a murder? It's just like, take it easy.
I'm desperate. No, but it is like injury luck decides the title pretty much every year.
Yeah, but there's some players who just always get injured and they're just like, oh man, how unlucky. It's like at some point.
Yeah, I don't think Blake Griffin's unlucky anymore.
Yeah, there's a durability issue with some players.
Blake Griffin, Kevin O'Connor has the complete list, but it's like it's so long you can't read it.
Who's the other player that I'm completely
for injuries?
Yeah, that I'm just complete. That's always has a different injury, and it's like, oh, he's injured again. It's an NBA. I just for some reason it'll come to me in a minute.
On a playoff team?
Just a player that ever is always a good player, but who's always getting injured. And Anthony Davis.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
So like,
do
you
really
really think Anthony Davis has just been super unlucky, or is he probably he's not all the way to what that guy had in that Bruce Willis comic book movie Unbreakable? He's not all the way there, but he's on that spectrum where he's going to be injury prone. I think
some people just know how to avoid injury, like. Even you see it as kids, like there's certain kids like in my son's class who always had these little injuries.
Yeah.
My son's never been injured. He's like tumbling off couches and falling down the stair. Like he just doesn't get hurt. And I feel like LeBron is the greatest possible version of that.
Yeah.
LeBron, think of how many times he's crashed into people. And he's just one of the greatest athletes of all time. I would say he's in the top 5 ever in any sport.
And it's also the type of thing where if you start getting a couple injuries, it exacerbates things because now you're favoring this knee, so then you have problems with the other knee. So it just kind of snowballs. Plus the radiation. You imagine Anthony Davis is taking that MRI once every 2 games. Yeah, that's probably the biggest fear for him right now.
You've noticed, you've been to a couple Clipper games this year. Like you've noticed Blake athletically is not the same guy. I mean, now it doesn't matter anymore, but he used to jump over people. Now he's going under and around people.
Well, he wrote that article where he's like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm trying to prolong my career. I need to become a mid-range specialist. And it's just kind of like, okay, but
your athleticism was what made you special.
No, not even. I'm just saying, like, you're doing that. Sure, it's going to prolong your career, but you're not going to be as good a player as you used to be. That's
right.
That's not a good way to play basketball.
Quick break to talk about Proper Cloth. ProperCloth.com. Every guy knows it's hard to find a dress shirt that fits. Maybe the collar's too tight, the sleeves are too long, the shirt's too loose. I have some good news. Ordering a custom fit shirt has never been easier thanks to Proper Cloth. Create a custom shirt size in seconds by just answering 10 easy questions, no measuring required. Tate, have you done this yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Way to go, Tate. Over 500 fabric styles to choose from, everything from classic business to casual shirts, all high quality starting at just $85. Proper Cloth has hundreds of 5-star reviews on Google and Yelp. It's the highest rated custom shirt maker on Google. Who would have the most 5-star reviews on Yelp in the NBA? Probably LeBron. Yeah.
Maybe.
A lot of Westbrook, and then there would be like the Westbrook counter crew would be putting 1-star reviews to try.
Then there'd be the guys who write reviews, just like they'll have like 1,500 reviews, and they're reviewing the most ridiculous. They'd be like talking about Kawhi's defense. Those guys.
Find out why GQ calls Proper Cloth their favorite online custom shirt maker. Go to their easy to use website, make a custom profile, order from your phone. By the way, Proper Cloth guarantees a perfect fit. Remakes are free. The Proper Cloth team makes it super easy to do. Stop wearing shirts that don't fit. Look your best. Go to propercloth.com/BS. Enter gift code BS and save $20 on your first shirt. Clippers. Blake Griffin. This is year 6. Blake, Chris, DeAndre have all been on the same team now for 6 years. Back in the day, early on, we used to blame Vinny Del Negro. You and I especially. Be like, what is this guy?
Yeah.
Come on. What's going on here? I remember there was one time when Michael Smith predicted their play coming out of a timeout.
That happens, though.
No, but he was just like, here's what they're going to do. And I'm like, this is a terrible sign that Michael Smith knows their play coming out of the timeout. Yeah. So then he leaves and Doc comes in, who you and I had always been a little suspicious about as a game coach, but respected.
Yeah, of course.
Better than Vinny. It all crests in 2015, the Houston series. Were you at that game? When they blew the 25-point lead or whatever that was?
I went to every game that's not that one. I missed, that was game 6, was it?
Game 5 or game 6 or whatever. They lost the next game.
It was game 5, yeah, and they lost game 6 and game 7. Yeah, no, I didn't go to that game.
And then last year, all hell breaks loose. Now this year, it's kind of the last stand. Blake gets hurt, he's out. And now it looks like, what would you do? What would you do if you're running the Clippers? Do you run this back for year 7?
Yeah.
Do you pay Blake $28 million a year next year or whatever he's going to get?
I mean, you could say the thing that's interesting is like, what do you do if you're every team that's not Golden State? Because they have the NBA they've got, that's it. They're the team that's probably only going to be the team that wins championships. So what would I do? I don't know. I think that the model of coach and president of basketball operations is a terrible model. I think guys.
I would like to agree.
I think that you need someone who is able to study just other players and the draft and strategy and all those other things, and you can't be doing that and coaching an NBA
The Celtics have 2 GMs basically.
Sure.
Not to mention a whole staff underneath them.
Yeah.
And Doc for 2 years tried to do both jobs, coach and GM, which is just a suicide mission.
And I don't think it's not the same talent. The ability to coach and be a leader of men and drawing up plays, etc., is not the same talent as putting together a roster.
Well, Phil Jackson, it worked out though.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, it didn't work out at all.
Right. So, what do? I don't know. I probably would have wanted to trade Blake a couple years ago.
Last year was the year when Denver was ready to give up whatever to get him, to get a superstar. And they probably could have gotten Jokic and Gallinari
Don't you
and
think
Will
they
Barton.
could have traded him to Oklahoma City at some point for someone?
I think the Celtics would have jumped at him big time last year. I think
For
they would have
those
given
picks,
up both
yeah.
Brooklyn picks.
And it just shows you how hard it is to be a power forward in the NBA who plays his style.
Yeah.
He's not someone who crashes a lot underneath the basket, and he doesn't stretch it all the way out to the 3-point line. So you're just sitting in that 0.7, 0.8 points per shot range of those long twos that he likes to take.
And then DeAndre is there too, and he's clogging at least
it
part
up.
of the lane. That's bad.
So it's unless he develops a terrific. It's just sad because he is a ridiculous. I mean, he's a great ball handler. He's a great playmaker. They can play fast. He's a spectacular talent. He's just in an era that makes him less valuable, I think.
Well, I always wonder, like, this Westbrook Durant thing and how it played out, where clearly both guys needed their own situation. I wonder if that's the case with Blake and Chris. And let's say they trade Blake to, I guess Blake's going to opt out. And I don't know, I forget how they changed the sign and trade rules, so I might not be right on this. But let's say they just said, Blake, we'll re-sign you and we'll flip you, in 2 months for this.
I think you have to wait even longer than that. But anyways.
Yeah, they did change it. I hate.
I think it's December 13th,
Yeah.
right? Once you
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
All right, under the old sign and trade rules.
Right.
But put him on Orlando, and Orlando sends a 3-for-1 trade, which normally I'm against. But if you're the Clippers and you're able to get like Aaron Gordon as the Blake replacement and a couple other guys, and
who else would you want on that team though?
that's true. Well. All right, so
Fournier.
it's a double hypothetical. So if you could do a side of trade, Orlando had guys you wanted.
Yeah.
But no, I think Denver is a good example too of.
But they're not getting Jokic now. No chance.
Jokic, if they traded Jokic for Blake, I think there would be a riot in Denver. They'd get super stoned first, but then they would have a riot.
Yeah.
No, I don't even know where the Blake market is now. They, to your point, they missed it because like a year ago, I think it was much higher. Now it's like OKC, I could see doing it. The Knicks can never be ruled out under any circumstances for anything.
They could
or a team like
certainly-
Brooklyn.
Yeah, they could certainly play the triangle with Blake. That would be fun.
Or, I just don't know what he does, because if I'm him and I'm this banged up, I'm grabbing the money at that point.
What does Chris Paul do is what I want to know. Like, I know he was on the union, whatever, leadership. What is he? He's like a union rep.
They're going to call it the Chris Paul rule.
Yeah. But he they specifically, him and LeBron specifically created this collective bargaining agreement thing that allowed them to maximize the amount of.
The Chris Paul rule.
Yeah. And so now does he leave though?
It's 5 years, $201 million. It might even be more because the cap went up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
If you were him, would you go to Milwaukee? I theorized this on Friday. If you're just if Chris Paul's like, I just want to win a championship.
I wouldn't go to Milwaukee.
You would?
No, I would not.
Oh, you would not?
Why would I want to go to Milwaukee?
Where would you go if you're Chris Paul and you want to win a title?
Oh, I mean,
I would go to the East.
He would go to the East for sure. He's probably too old to go to. I don't think Milwaukee, even with Chris Paul, is ready. I don't think. I mean, I don't know. He would go if you want to win a championship. You probably go to San Antonio.
Is this Golden State thing? This is just where we're going to be the rest of the decade?
Probably. We'll see. I don't know. The Caps. It's different once you start winning championship. Stuff changes. Like. Obviously,
you guys feel like they won the title, and now it's like, all right,
it's
I want to
okay.
get paid.
Now I want to get paid.
Yeah.
I want to get out of here. Maybe someone felt like, oh, I won the title and I didn't get enough credit because I did more than this guy did. You just never really know.
The disease of more, as Pat Riley called it.
Yeah, you just never really know. So, but as constructed and the way things are now, it's pretty hard to beat that team for the next however long they're.
Houston, I think, created the best possible team that hypothetically could beat them.
Sure.
Just from they get the 2 monster Harden games and the 2 games where they hit a ton of threes.
All the games they hit a ton of threes. They're just gonna, and they're smart enough to realize that look, we are not as good as this team. We need to junk up this game as much as possible and create as much variance as possible.
Right.
So
which is what they're good at
with a ton of threes, deep threes. It's going to be interesting if they match up.
Durant's the X factor because now that Curry's playing better and they have their mojo back a little bit, and then when they play that lineup with Durant and Draymond, nobody has the guy to match up against Durant in that situation. Like Washington, fun team.
Yeah.
I really enjoy watching Washington. I think they could score with Golden State, but the X factor would be you can't play Bojan.
Washington's a fun
Durant.
team if you make a rule that says only 5 players are allowed to play for an entire game.
Right.
Because their bench is just a joke.
It's just
It's
Bojan.
ridiculous. It's like like Brandon Jennings had a few moments where he just had like a great moment in game 2. But if you watch him on defense, you watch Bojan on defense, you watch Oubre, who everyone thinks is a great defender because every once in a while he'll deflect the pass.
I like Oubre. Am I wrong to like Oubre?
He's great at getting those deflections.
He does.
He's super long.
He did brain fart a couple of times in these playoffs.
Dude,
he looks out of it.
He plays like right up on players, and then they blow by him. He's always out of position. He's like a high variance player because he's going to get a steal for a dunk, which he may miss, right? Because he missed a couple of those too, or he's going to just get some guy backdooring him or leaving him open, or he's just going to run up on someone and foul him when they're in the penalty. He did that twice in game 2. Just for no reason fouled off the ball when they're in the penalty because he wanted to play real close up.
I think it's young exuberance.
Yeah, he seems like he's got some exuberance problems.
I do like that Washington team, and I am hoping that I think Washington Celtics would be so much fun. I swear they haven't played since like 1984 in a playoff series.
I would love that one.
It'd just be great. Every game would be 120 to 117 or 128 to 124.
That's a team though. Where do you put Isaiah in that versus that team?
That's our big matchup problem with them. You put them basically in Otto Porter, and you just kind of hope that
Porter
they don't do pick and rolls and switch it so Isaiah's on.
Yeah.
Isaiah can't guard John Wall. Most people can't guard John Wall.
No, but Isaiah can't guard John Wall. He can't guard Bradley Beal.
No, that's a disaster.
He probably can't even guard Kelly Oubre Jr. Probably can't guard Kelly Oubre Sr.
It's terrible.
So it's tough.
It's the Isaiah conundrum was that team in Toronto were weirdly even Cleveland, they could match up better with it because they just put him on one of the shooters. But on Toronto, they had nobody to put him against.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, it's the one team that Jonas just kills, the Celtics. He just loves it. What would you do at Toronto, Milwaukee? Where do you see that one going? We should do a quick speed round.
Sure. I think Milwaukee is the better team for that matchup, but I don't know if they're ready to win. It seems like
we've been here before with these young playoff teams and a bunch of smoke getting blown up the asses and it's tough. They haven't been there before. Brogdon to me in Game 4 looked to me like he was feeling it for the first time. Yeah. Like, oh, we really need you, and it's like I'm a rookie. I just started playing 20 games.
They need
ago.
a big game from Middleton if they're going to, and
he sucked in
was
game
terrible 4. In Game 4.
Yeah, awful.
Yeah. So I don't know. I see that series. If I had to, I would probably. I mean, I don't know. I think Milwaukee has a chance to win that series. I would probably.
The history of this stuff is with young teams. As the series goes along, it's better for them because they just get a little more comfortable each game, and the fact that it's 2-2 and they have a chance to come back to Milwaukee if they won Game 5. I still really like this Toronto team.
But how about the fact that they were up 2-1 and they had a chance to go up 3 games? That's huge. That's the swing of that is just like that's just huge. That's a huge swing.
It was weird that they didn't see it coming what Toronto was obviously going to do in that game, which was just make it ugly, put PJ Tucker on Giannis.
Well, what was
slow
really
it down.
What was really weird is that Toronto didn't realize that Norman Powell should have been playing more.
Right.
That was
For the spacing.
that was the matchup change, the lineup change that really switched things for that series.
Which arguably should have happened in game one.
Everyone on my Twitter feed was going crazy. People love Norman Powell.
Yeah.
So it was there's all these pictures of Norm from Cheers when he was like when he played ball. So that'll be interesting how they counter that.
Is that the biggest toss-up series for you right now?
The Clippers one is a pretty big toss-up series too. I mean, any series that's 2-2 is a pretty big. I mean, I think Boston's. I think Boston's definitely in the driver's seat.
I think
in
we're
their series.
okay in that series.
I think Atlanta Washington's kind of a toss-up too. I mean, if
I'm
you look
so-
at, I thought Washington was so much better than Atlanta to begin the series. I just thought this is like, but if you look at the first two games Washington won, they didn't win. I mean, those games were in doubt. They were not go-away wins. And a couple of things had to go right for Washington to win those games, and they did.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Atlanta has way more options to make changes. Like that's always thing in a series. You always look at like, okay, who has the ability to make like a lineup change or switch things around? Who has that ability because they have the pieces? And then will they actually do it? And
Toronto fits that mode too.
Yeah.
A lot of weird
they
flexibility.
could do some different things,
Yeah.
and they might find something that works. Some of it's just random. They're just plugging in different things, and it just happened to work. Oh, wow, look how good this is working.
Yeah.
But what move does Washington have other than just playing better? I mean, they have no depth whatsoever. If they have to play as fast as possible with Wall in transition, and they have to hope that, if Atlanta plays Dwight Howard less, crashes the boards less, plays better on offense.
Play Dwight Howard less is a good playoff recipe.
Yeah. It's a bad matchup for them. He's probably past his prime. That's a fair,
I would say definitely.
yeah, pretty fair thing to say. And Muscala kind of stretches it out. If they want to play a center, they can play him, and then they could just play small. It's not like you have to really worry about Gortat. Oh no, what are we going to do if we go small? Gortat's
Right.
going to kill us. The Polish Hammer. He's a good player. He's a fine player, but he's not going to kill you. if you
I've
go
been
small.
stunned by Schroeder, who I was never a fan of. I always thought
He played
one of
unreal.
my
in game
6
three.
or 7. I had him in the bottom 6 or 7 for starting point guards the whole season.
He played unreal in game 3.
While I love John Wall, I can't believe he doesn't have a shoe contract. I think he's breathtaking. He's not a good defensive player.
He is a good defensive player.
I feel like he's not, though. I feel like he has the tools to be a good defensive player, but I don't see it. Like, to me, Schroeder shouldn't be just lighting them up like this. That's
It's a bit
John
of
Wall's
it's-
got to take that on himself and be
gotta
like, I got to
adjust-
stop him.
They've got to adjust their scheme a little bit and make it so that he's primarily guarding him when they run pick and roll, because that's what's killing it. It's not, they're not ISOing and just or posting him
No.
up. It's pick and roll. You need to make an adjustment. The guy got to come over. Now the ball swings and it comes back to him. So it's hard because anytime you have a lot of that's a difference between Westbrook and other players, right? Westbrook in pick and roll, you can pack the paint in because there's no shooters, right? But Atlanta, they've got the floor spread out a lot more, and so it creates those lanes, and that's like that's a big difference that people don't really account for.
Tonight it could be 2-2.
Tonight it could be 2-2.
He's got to win that. He's got to win that matchup.
Got to crush that matchup. They played so
That's
bad
their biggest
in game 3.
advantage.
That was like it's some of these teams that show up and just play so bad. It's just so interesting to me in the playoffs. It's usually an afternoon game, and and you just looking like, what is going on?
I think those early afternoon playoff games almost are unbettable.
They're
It's
tough.
like,
They're
you
tough
just
to
don't know
watch.
what the fuck's going to happen.
Yeah, they're tough to watch.
You don't know if the guys have been out the night before. Sometimes they've played 36 hours before the game and they're tired from that, or you just don't know.
There was a game 7 or a game 5 where Rudy Gay was at the Fantasy Factory dunking off trampolines till 2 or 3 in the morning the night before. He was like literally the night before, and the game was a noon Pacific start.
Okay.
And I was just like, Rudy, you play tomorrow, bro.
Yeah, right.
What are you doing? And then I remember just watching. He was terrible. I remember watching. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you jumping off of trampolines into foam ball? Like he was literally jumping off of trampolines, dunking for everyone at the Fantasy Factory till 2 or 3 in the morning. Might not have been that late. It was pretty late though.
The other thing with NBA players is they're on this body clock schedule where, they're trying to peak it from 7:30 to 10 at night. They eat dinner afterwards.
It's just
They're
different.
usually up to like 3:34 in the morning. So you throw that random
It's just different.
12:30 or
It's just
2 o'clock East
and it's
Coast
the
time. It's
playoffs,
brutal.
too, and it's just like it's you never know.
Do one more for Quicken Loans when it comes down to the massive decision of choosing a mortgage lender, it's important to work with someone you can trust who has your best interests in mind. With Rocket Mortgage, you'll get a transparent online process that gives you the confidence to make an informed decision. Don't waste time searching through stacks of paperwork. With Rocket Mortgage, you can securely share your financial info to get a mortgage approval within minutes. You can even adjust the rate and length of your loan in real time to make sure you get the mortgage solution that's right for you, whether you're looking to buy a home or refinance your existing mortgage. You can lift the burden of getting a home loan with Rocket Mortgage. Skip the bank, skip the waiting, go completely online at quickenloans.com/Bill Simmons, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. Again, quickenloans.com/Bill Simmons. So you think that's the most confusing series, Toronto, Atlanta?
A little bit.
Oh, Utah Clippers.
Utah Clippers.
But
is a
Utah
little bit
Clippers are just guys you never even know who's playing.
Yeah.
That's been the toughest thing for me is like, I almost want to do this series again where just everybody's in it. I want to know what happens.
Yeah.
Now it's like,
well,
what
I
do we
mean,
make of
Gobert
this?
looks like he's all the way there. It looks like I mean, he's not all the way there, but he played good enough in the first game back. Now he's got
bothersome shots.
Yeah. ISO Joe was unreal. 20 straight points, either scored or assisted down the stretch. That's amazing. They had no answer for that.
Rodney Hood is the all-time hit or miss guy on a playoff team, and he was actually good yesterday.
Doc Rivers cut Joe Ingles for a
That's
guy
great.
who now plays for Jiangsu Monkey King in China.
Who did he cut him for? I forget.
Jared Cunningham. Jiangsu Monkey King. That's literally the team the guy's playing for.
In his defense, I watched Joe Ingles play last year, and I'm like, I think I even tweeted about it a couple of times. I'm like, what am I missing with Joe Ingles? I just couldn't
like
get
the
it.
stereotype, I think. Like if you
Maybe it
look at
is.
Joe Ingles, you're not like, oh, that guy's an NBA. Like if you're at a club and you're a girl and someone's like, oh, that guy plays in the NBA, you'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
Right, he's like Marty Conlon for this generation.
he looks like Biff, like from the future and Back to the Future. He's like,
But he
I'm
wasn't.
balding.
This year, he's actually making threes. I thought when they had him guarding Chris Paul at the end of Game 3 was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. It wasn't completely a disaster.
He's a good defender.
Yeah.
It's because he's got a lot of length and he's smart. He knows angles. He knows where to push a guy. He knows how to like use his hands on the hips and move him this way, move him that way. So, yeah. You know what was interesting about that game was the Clippers played that game like they wanted that game to be as short as possible in terms of like if you watch, they weren't in a hurry to inbound the ball.
Right.
They played super deliberate. And I just feel like that's not the team. I get it. It's a bad environment. You're in Utah. You want to take the crowd
Weird
out
altitude.
of it. And you want to like take the air out of the ball and make the game. But is that really the team you want to force a half court matchup against?
No.
Utah. I feel like they play half court. I mean, the Clippers are a super efficient offensive team in the half court, but I don't know. It just seems like the Clippers, when I watch them play really well, when they're playing really well, it's usually they're getting out and they're creating like these mismatches where they can get JJ Redick is a great player and he's struggling in this series, but I feel like he benefits a lot from their early to late off, like their early to mid transition offense.
It's that
getting those
Warriors
threes.
chaos thing where it's those first 6 seconds after something when everybody's scrambling to go wherever, and that's when he's really good.
That's where games are won usually. If you
Yeah.
look at something like it's in that this stretch that happens that just something goes mad for like 2 or 3 minutes. It happened in the Wizards Atlanta game. They Oubre got a steal, Jennings got a steal. They did this, they did that, and all of a sudden they're up 12. And that happens. I feel like the Clippers are never in that situation where they're playing that style on the road where they're ever just going to be up 12 because they're going on a run. They're just not going to be going.
The
on a run.
Celtics are another team like that. They love the chaos.
Yeah.
They love when they start slowing it up and Isaiah's bringing it up. There's 16 seconds on the shot clock when he's just passing over half court. I'm always like, the Bulls should be slowing that pace down and making it super choppy and awkward. The more chaotic it gets, the worse
They
it
should
is
be
for
running
them.
post ups and back downs with
all the
Lopez
time.
in the game, getting the rebound or
Go
do they-
old school 80s.
like what David Blatt had the Cavaliers do versus Golden State in
Right.
the 2015
Exactly.
finals.
You want a 92-89 game.
You want a caveman style of basketball
Yes.
where just someone's backing, and Jimmy Butler can do that. Start backing down from the 3-point line. Then
Wade can do it too. That's kind of
Wade-
his style now.
that's all he does.
Yeah.
But the other thing is you could have Michael Carter Williams in there along with Joffrey Laverne, and you could have him run pick and roll. You could do that too.
Michael Carter Williams. I will say defensively, he does bug Isaiah a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
But offensively, you're playing 4-on-5, and
it's
I mean, literally, you might
ridiculous.
even be playing 3.5-on-5.
We did a thing where we were studying like the shot angles and like the ability of a shot to go in terms of like how lucky or unlucky was a miss, because like just the arc of the ball could it have gone in or didn't go in. And he had like so many where the sport view camera tracking was messed up because he was hitting the backboard and the camera didn't know if it was like over on this side of the court or that side. Like if you watch the ball, it would bounce all around the court because he's taking these threes that are hitting the top of the backboard, the side of the backboard.
Yeah. When they go left or right, that's never a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is the worst shooter in the league, and it's not close.
Yeah.
Of anyone under like 6'8".
It's pretty. Roberson. How tall is he? 6'9"?
But Roberson at least had 5 weeks last spring.
Yeah, Roberson's
when
better.
he made shots.
But Michael Carms can make free throws.
True.
And so it's interesting, right?
So I tweeted this yesterday. I hate Hack-a-Shaq. I think it's awful.
I love it in its current incarnation.
It was brilliant how they used it yesterday.
Yeah.
It was really, really savvy, smart. I always wonder, like, when it's just used as like an effective quickie strategy just to throw a team off, it's really effective. I don't understand why teams don't do it with the clips more.
Yeah.
Like just the random, we fouled DeAndre and then don't do it again. It's like, are they going to do this again? No. And then it's in your head.
Yeah.
I thought it changed game 4. I thought it was smart.
Utah could definitely benefit from that at some point because the Clippers are so ridiculously efficient on offense.
And you knock them out of the flow because I think there's certain teams, the Clips, the Warriors, I think the Celtics are like this, where they get in these 6-minute grooves. And all you have to do is that one Hack-a-Shaq stops it, reset.
Think about this. If DeAndre, you're gambling that he has a poor night from the line. If he does, who do they go to? They have to take him out. Doc has to take him out. Who do they go to now? Maurice Bates. You want that guy playing the 5?
Right.
Versus Favors or Gobert in pick and roll. I would definitely do that at some point. It's just tough because you have to be in the penalty already or the bonus, whichever.
Yeah.
However you want to call it. And then you can only do it from, you can't do it in the last 2 minutes of a quarter. So it has to be you don't want to foul to get into the penalty because that just puts you in a bad situation. And he has to be on the court.
By the way, if Rondo decides to play, which I do not think can be ruled out because that guy played with a dislocated elbow and he finished a game with a torn ACL. Like that guy's going to play in this series. Anyone who thinks he's not playing is insane. If he's playing out there with some sort of splint and it's just going to be like Rondo's going to run the offense, and I would do hack a Rondo.
Yeah.
If he's going to have something on his hand.
It's his left hand though, right?
I thought it was his shooting hand.
No, it's his right hand.
Oh, it's his right hand.
shooting hand.
He can't play then. He can't play with a broken
I'm not ruling
thumb.
out Rondo. I'm telling you, he'll figure it out. He'll just play with the broken hand.
A paw, like a giant. They'll turn his hand into a paw.
I think they'll do something.
I don't know what you could do. Maybe
He'll be
cut
the
off
first guy to do it. Yeah, he'll cut it off. He'll be like, I'm not losing the series. Take my thumb.
Suture it off. Yeah.
But if he does play, if they don't do hack a Rondo, that's insane.
If he does play, they'll probably hack him.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to. He might play. I don't know. You might be right.
Golden State, next round, playing the winner of this Clips-Utah series. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about this. I don't think it'll happen. 16-0 is not inconceivable to me. It's not inconceivable.
No, it's not inconceivable either. The thing is that when they turn, they're as good defensively as they are offensively, and people don't realize that.
Nobody realizes Durant's good on defense. So it's like never gets mentioned when people talk about the Durant package.
That's like the one thing where you talk about, okay, well, if a team wants to bring the variance of 3-point shots, you aren't getting, like, are Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum getting a lot of open threes in this series or threes at all? They're not, because they're switching everything 1 to 5. Golden State is, and they've got so much length and arms. They're like Milwaukee, only if Milwaukee was veteran and smart on defense and knew every rotation. The one thing that does muck it up a little bit is, their head coach might not be there, and so you have Mike Brown.
I was going to say there's only one man who can stop Golden State,
and
unfortunately, it's Mike Brown.
I don't know. Mike Brown's a fine coach. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Mike Brown's a fine coach?
They're all fine coaches. Look, you don't get to be an NBA head coach without being a decent coach, I don't think. I've kind of come to that realization.
I don't know who you are right now.
I've come to that realization.
Mike Brown had LeBron at his absolute apex in 2009 and 2010. and they kind of struggled offensively in big moments, which is pretty much impossible. I don't want to hear about the supporting cast. LeBron was at the height of his powers.
Okay, you got it.
He was 35, 11, and 15 or something in the 13 playoff games that year. It was some crazy 35, 12, and 9 or something like that.
Yeah, there's only so much a coach can do, though.
I know.
mean, look at we're talking about Doc Rivers, and now how he's not doing a good job, but they won a title with him, so it's a lot of it is just the guys around you and finding something that works and sticking.
I don't think Doc's doing a bad job. I think from what I've seen the last couple of years, the biggest mistake is that they never tried small ball with Blake at the 5.
Yeah,
just the whole league was going that way,
and never staggering. He's done so many things that people have thought are horrible. Like staggering minutes, playing all bench units.
That was like, remember the days when you and I were going crazy that Scott Brooks would take Westbrook and Durant out at the same time? It still remains one of the most inexplicable.
Dude, they ran like a 5-man bench unit in game 1 and game 2, and it was a total like their starters were up like 24 and 28 points in the first 2 games, something like that, and then they rolled out Brandon Jennings.
Right.
Kelly Oubre Jr., Bojan Bogdanovic.
He doesn't get it.
Thomas Satoransky. Like, I can't remember who the other guy was.
Just play Waller-Beal. Just keep Waller-Beal out there.
But
You're
he
good.
also had Wall out there with it was, I don't know. It's tough, though, because they don't have anything. They don't have any depth. That Washington team doesn't really have any depth, so I don't. And then Wall's playing so fast, I don't think he can play more than 38 minutes a game.
True. He's actually one of the few guys in the history of me watching the NBA where I actually fear for their safety sometimes.
Did you see that the dunk that he had?
Yeah,
that was the most
behind the back lefty.
Ridiculous, and the speed of it. That's the thing. The speed was just so. That was breathtaking.
Him, Westbrook, and Derrick Rose are the 3 guys from this decade where you're just like, oh my god. Yeah. Giannis is as fast, but it doesn't seem like he's as fast. It's like an optical illusion,
and the steps are so long that it's slow. It looks like it's going slower than it actually is, whereas Wall looks like it's going faster than it actually. It just looks so fast.
Does Giannis win an MVP in the next 5 years?
Probably.
Does he win an MVP before Anthony Davis?
Yeah. I don't know. I would say that the chance of Anthony Davis going an entire year without being injured, and
it has to be considered skeptically.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I hope but it just seems like I don't know what they could do.
What did your model think when they traded for Boogie Cousins and put him and Davis on the same team?
I think it overvalued it definitely thought they would be better than they were.
Yeah.
But it's just too tough. Like mid-season, you don't get very much practice. Like the model doesn't know that there's no practice, right? It's a model. It's
especially February, March. Nobody's practicing.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Those games are like, I wasn't really paying too much attention to the New Orleans Hornets or the Pelicans to begin with. So I didn't really know, but I do think that it would have overvalued them for sure. They kind of turned it on for a stretch there, played really good for a couple games, and they just started resting everyone because they were trying to tank for a draft pick.
I don't really care who wins Milwaukee and Toronto.
I should care. I'm Canadian, but I'm kind of rooting for Milwaukee.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't care. Like, I don't have a betting interest in it or anything. Giannis versus LeBron would be just thrilling for me.
Yeah.
I just feel like if you're a basketball fan and you don't have any ties to either team in this series and you didn't bet on them,
you want that for sure.
You want to see Giannis play LeBron. I want to see the freak of the last generation and still the freak go against the future freak, and I just want to see them battling like superheroes.
Agree.
That
would be a fun series to watch. Giannis is just so awesome too.
How about his defense?
How about
the ground he covers?
How about his tweets where he's like, "Oh my God, try smoothie for a first time. I love America." like how do you not love this guy? It's amazing. Him and his brother selling like watches and stuff like that on the street in Athens is like homeless. Basically not homeless, but like trying to earn a living for their.
Right.
I mean, it's just
he was homeless for a little while.
It's amazing to me.
We did that draft, Jalen and I, 2013. And he was the one guy we just couldn't figure out. Like, the foreign guys, you're just watching YouTube clips, basically.
Exactly.
We're watching YouTube clips of him, and it looked like he was playing against ninth graders in some gym in the YMCA. And Jalen's like, how old are those guys? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know if they're 18.
Yeah.
And
especially when you're playing, like, in a league that's not, like, when you're playing in, like, the Greek league, or you're playing here, or you're playing there again, like you said. Like, it's one thing, like, there's that Luka, I don't know what his last name is.
Luka. Yeah.
That guy.
That guy's playing in Real Madrid
He's
already.
17.
Yeah.
He might be
the guy.
The guy, yeah.
He's a high school junior playing on Real Madrid against like the best players in Europe.
Yeah. So against that, you can but then his stats aren't very good. But because you have to look at, okay, he's 17. But like you said, how do you measure
That was
this
the
stuff?
Rubio 2008 Olympics thing. He's like 17 or 18 playing in the Olympics. But
If Rubio had a jump shot, he would be top 3-point guard in the league, top 4-point guard.
Nick should have traded for him
100%.
for Rose's experiment. But so we're watching those Giannis clips.
Sorry. Yeah.
And we thought the gym was small because the ground you get to step, and we're just looking at the gym going, is that like a smaller gym? Do they have small? We couldn't figure it out. And then it turns out, no, he's just
a
like,
giant.
he took these giant steps. And then after they drafted him, he grew 2 inches.
In his rookie year, he grew like 2 or 3 inches or something like that.
There's a little bit of a revisionist history now at that draft. It's interesting. Like the Celtic fans get salty. I've made jokes about it, like, oh, we took Olynyk over Giannis.
Yeah.
But doing that draft, we were all surprised Schroeder didn't go ahead of him. Like Schroeder was Schroeder, the Gobert, Giannis, there were all these different foreign guys. And Schroeder was the guy that we were like, oh, we could see him going 13, 14, 15.
But see those, I don't know. I just feel like if you have a philosophy on drafting, like look at all of the really shocking draft picks in the history of like the last 10, 15 years. There haven't been like 6'3" point guards or 6'2" point guards. None of those guys shock you. It's the guys like Giannis, Jokic, Gobert. Like I feel like the teams that get it take
Marc
gambles.
Gasol.
Yeah, take gambles on big players because that's your biggest upside. And those are the players that take DeAndre Jordan. Those are the players that take the longest to develop. And for every case like that, you have another case of like a guy like Larry Sanders who was good but then didn't have his head on right. Or you have guys like, I can't really think of any, but got big guys who just never.
Hasheem Thabeet.
Yeah, you have Hasheem Thabeet, right? But he was a number 2. Like I'm talking about taking like in the late rounds.
Flyers.
Yeah, just you taking a flyer. Exactly.
It's funny though. I've asked people about Jokic because like the Celtics had throwaway picks that they could have taken Jokic, and everybody who scouted him that year was just like, there was no way to see this coming. He was just this fat pudgy kid. It didn't seem like he cared that much about basketball. How do you know?
Nurkic is another example because he, as a player playing last year or this year, excuse me, he looked like he couldn't play either when he was playing for.
And every team had scouting meetings like, all right, let's talk about Nurkic. He's available. Should we go get him?
And then Portland gets him and he just goes off.
Portland got a first round pick and Nurkic.
Yeah.
That's how low his value was.
Yeah. And who I mean, I certainly didn't predict that type of, I mean, he just made that offense roll.
I think the one thing we've learned over the years with trades that end up being steals is you really have to look at if the guy is just in the wrong situation.
Yeah, of course.
And it's something we just don't do enough. You know, Nurkic and Jokic could not play together. They picked Jokic. Now you have this guy who's available at this declining price. That's a pretty good gamble. I didn't want the Celtics to trade for Nurkic. I was like, that guy's, he can't. I was just judging from what I saw.
Yeah.
But I think we've seen that over and over again. There's certain guys.
State of mind of the player at the time, attitude, work ethic, that stuff that you can't really get from on court. And you
Here's
need to
the
ask
flip
a lot
side.
of questions.
I really like the Cameron Payne trade the Bulls made because Gibson's leaving anyway. I'm like, Cameron Payne, that's a classic bad situation guy. He's on Westbrook's team. He never has the ball, and then he goes to the Bulls and he stinks.
Well,
So
does he
that's
stink,
the
though?
flip side of it. I don't know. He might.
Is he better than Isaiah Cannon?
Isaiah Cannon and Michael Carter-Williams are playing over him in a playoff series.
But does that mean that he's worse, or does it mean that the coach doesn't think he's good enough?
Good point.
You know, we don't know. I don't know.
We'll know after game 5 because I'm sure he's going to play 38 minutes.
Yeah, probably.
So do you think the Warriors can go 16-0 or no? The Houston variance probably screws it up one of those games.
That and the coaching and just the I mean, if they play Cleveland, Cleveland's going to take a game probably from them too. I don't think they go. I mean, I think they have a chance. They have a better chance than any other team to go 16-0 that I can remember. Aside from the Lakers went 15-1 that one year when they lost to.
Yeah, the 0-1
overtime.
Lakers came freaking close.
Yeah.
OT game 1 finals.
And they
was
didn't
the
just
only way
win;
it
they won
didn't happen.
every game by a lot. That was like one of my greatest moments in
Well, that was like
history.
you built your empire on that
The year
one.
before, but the next year.
And the next year.
I was riding that. I mean, they were so good. Derek Fisher got injured, came back from injury. They just went on a run. I was like, I remember they played the Spurs and they were the underdog versus the Spurs that year. And they beat the Spurs like by 20 or something. I mean, they just crushed them.
Yeah.
Wasn't even close.
That's your 04 Pistons you did well too.
04 Pistons, I did well, yes. But I
08
did.
Celtics.
04 Pistons, I pivoted. 04 Pistons, I thought they're not going to have a chance after watching game 1. I was like, this team gets every loose ball.
Yeah.
They're drawing fouls because they're more athletic. Karl Malone got injured. I was like, this is a bad. 08 Celtics, I did bad. I had the Lakers that year.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's the worst thing
why
I've
I
ever
became
heard.
really bitter and looked back at all these Phil Jackson quotes. And I was like, how is this happening? Why are they letting out so many open corner threes? What is going on here? I did bad that year. I've had a bunch where I've done bad. The playoffs are tough. It's tough. The playoffs are very tough. There's so many things you can't predict. The best team doesn't always win in a 7-game series. It's tough. I don't really do the series. I never really did series plays. I'd always just bet the individual games for the most part. So
Sal and I made our big bet before the year, which was that Golden State would not win the title because we like the odds. It's just a death ship. Everyone on the ship is dead. It's just sailing across the ocean into the middle of nowhere. It has no chance. We'd have to have an injury at this point.
yeah, could happen though.
The theory was
You have Durant. I mean, who knows?
new team, throwing new guys together. The history of it says it takes a year to figure out.
Do we know how healthy Durant is though? I mean, he could
No.
play probably, but who knows what happens when he plays?
This is a good point, and this is where we'll end. Because I think we've seen this with Kevin Love too. These guys come back from injuries, and we're like, they're back, they're fine. And it's like a lot of times they're not fine.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it takes 3-4 weeks for them to kind of look like themselves again. I think we saw that with Kevin Love. I think he came back from a knee injury, and he just wasn't the same for a while. Now he's starting to bang bodies and starting to look like Kevin Love again. But I still wonder. I don't understand the Darren Williams thing. I just don't understand it. The guy arguably looks as good as he's looked in like 5 years. This was somebody I thought was on his way out of the league.
He had some games for Dallas where he played really
He
well. If
did.
you watched him, I just think he doesn't have to do a lot. Doesn't have to start, and in little bursts like that, like his thing is a durability, like being able to play for an entire game.
Right.
That's his thing.
He's perfect for
It's
19
perfect.
minutes.
It's perfect.
That was I thought that was a waste of time to sign that guy. I was completely wrong.
No, I thought that he would do okay for them.
Yeah.
I'd watched him play a little bit this year, and I was like, he's probably not going to play 30 minutes a game, but he can play in stretches.
They have, first of all, one of the most fun playoff teams we've ever had. They can come back from any lead. They can blow any lead.
Oh, yeah.
You can never turn the Cavs off.
And then you get J.R. Smith too.
Yeah, you get.
As a
I mean,
bonus.
you get one of the 3 best players ever, and Kyrie, who can put up 50 in any playoff game, even though he never does. But it's always looming.
Yeah.
And Kevin Love can always be weird, but they could be down 26. You're like, I'm not turning it off.
They could score 140 points in a game this year in a regulation game in the playoffs.
Yeah, we could. But what'll be interesting in the finals, if it's Cavs Warriors, do they want to do
No.
they won't. They're going to slow it down and go the other way.
It'd have to be. It would have had to have been versus Indiana, I think, probably, because they're not going to do it against Milwaukee or Toronto. So that's,
You know,
that was
they do
probably
it
a
against
dumb
Celtics
thing.
or
That
Washington.
game, a team where if they played the Celtics, it could be that type of game.
I think it could be for Washington too. Why? Because Washington's going to turn on the Jets and go and.
I'm not sure. It's always tough to know what the teams will do and what their strategy is. But yeah, they're just
All right.
all good offensively.
Austin Rivers is back for Game 5.
Here we go. All right. That
voted-
changes everything. Just kidding. It actually does help them. But
I
it's just
voted for
interesting.
him for second team all defense.
He's a good. I mean,
Thank you.
he fouls.
He's a good defensive player.
But he's a good defensive player because he fouls all the time.
He
gets
learned
away
from
with it.
Chris Paul, the master. Chris Paul commits 20 fouls a
Yeah,
game.
no, he is. He's look. He gets a lot of flack. He's not as bad as people think he is, and he's not as good as he thinks he is, which is probably true of every person in this world. no
Right.
one's as good as they think they are at anything. But no, he's not as bad as people think he is. He'll help them.
Thanks again to Proper Cloth. Ordering a custom fit shirt has never been easier thanks to them. Proper Cloth custom shirts start from $85. High quality shirts made from premium Italian and Japanese fabrics that guarantee a perfect fit. Remakes are free. Their team makes it super easy to do. Stop wearing shirts that don't fit. Start looking your best. Go to propercloth.com/BS. Enter gift code BS to save $20 on your first shirt. Don't forget about the Ringer NFL show and the Ringer NBA show, those podcasts. Whole bunch of stuff going on this week. TheRinger.com. I will have a column there, maybe even 2 this week. And Haralabos, you can follow on Twitter.
I've been taking
You've been
it easy.
more laid back this year. You've
Just
been taking it easy.
Yeah.
I
I
still
get into it in the playoffs a little bit, but I didn't do anything during the regular season. Just relaxing.
HARALABOB at. No, there will be a game when you snap. It's gonna come. It's just your history. I'm going by your usage rate, your history, your PR throughout the playoffs. You're gonna have a 25 tweet binge coming.
I
just don't know when.
I know I've already had that, but
Who was it about?
I mean, the last 2 games I was watching. I had nothing else to do, so I was watching the games and tweeting. But afterwards, it's like you always feel like regret. It's like a bad one night stand, you know.
Why did I
Me on
do that?
Twitter is like a bad one night stand.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't be allowed on Twitter during Celtic games, especially in the playoffs, because I just know too much about my team and I take everything too personally. But I was calling for Gerald Green in game 1. I was sitting next to my dad. I'm like, we're gonna have to play Gerald Green.
He's
They
played
need
well.
one more guy on the perimeter who can at least make Chicago at least think twice. They just didn't have it. So now they spread it out. They did basically what they did in Utah against Gobert. They spread it out, bring the big guy out, make him try to guard somebody. It worked. I'll be interested to see with Rondo with his one hand whether it works. Haralabos, Voulgaris. It was a pleasure. I'm glad we did this.
Thanks
It's
for
been a
having me.
long time.
For sure. Thank
All
you.
right.